Good morning, folks. Welcome back out to Dad's shop today. Today we're going to be answering a question that I see a whole lot on the Facebook Coleman group, and lots of people ask, and that is, does Coleman fuel go bad? How long does it last? We've got this can of Coleman fuel that I got a couple years ago from a friend of ours that does swap meets and stuff. And this can came from OK Stores, which I googled that and didn't really come up with much of anything. So I don't know where that was for sure, but if anybody knows where OK Stores was, leave it down in the comments. But you can see it's got an OK Stores price tag on it, and the price was $2.59, so we know it's been a while. There's no date on the can that I can see anywhere, no way to really tell for sure how old this is, and by the looks of it, in the graphics on it, the lantern, the stove, the heater that's on there, those all look like probably mid 1970s models just by looking at the graphics. So I'm guessing if this fuel is not 50 years old, it's knocking right on 50 years old's door. It's got to be really close to 50, if not more than that. So today I brought out a lantern that's a little bit newer than what's on there. This is a 1981 220K, but the 220Js looked just like this, and that's what it looks like it is to me in the photo on the can. Now this lantern, you can tell by the amount of dust that's on the top of it, hasn't been down out of my rafters of the garage for a while now. And I don't really remember if this one surges when it's burning. I know I've had it going before, but I can't really remember too much about it. So we're going to light this up first, burn it while this is burning so we get a good baseline for our comparison. I've got a brand new can of Coleman fuel. I opened this just about 2 weeks ago. It's about half or 2/3 full still. So we're gonna get these 2 cans of fuel, and I got a couple of water bottles that I cut off that we're gonna pour a little bit in so we can see what they look like, what they smell like. I've heard or seen people on the Facebook groups say that they have old cans of fuel and it's got a blue tint to it. So we'll see what this one looks like, see what the new looks like. Maybe it looks exactly the same and has a little bit of a tint to it. I don't know. And if they aren't exactly the same, who's to say that they haven't changed their formula just a little bit in 50 years? But we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of that, and then we'll, after we burn this lantern for a few minutes, we'll shut it off, let it cool down a few minutes, dump out as much fuel as we possibly can dump out of it, and then fill it back up with the vintage Coleman fuel, light it back up, and see how it goes. I don't foresee having any trouble with it. We've used old cans of fuel in the late 90s or early 2000s. We had a can of Coleman fuel that was probably from the late 50s or early 60s that we bought, and it was half full, and we used up all the rest of that fuel and never had any issues with that. And last summer my dad bought a can of it was a Walmart brand, American Camper branded can that was half full at a swap meet, and we used all the rest of that. And my guess is that that was from the 90s probably by looking at the can. So we've never had any issues with using old camp fuel. First things first, we're going to go ahead and pump this up. It feels like there's already some pressure in it. Give it a few pumps though. Light it up, and we'll make sure it burns good before we put the vintage fuel in, so we have a comparison between the vintage fuel and the fuel that's in here that probably is no more than a couple years old. That's not too bad after a couple years of hanging up in the rafters of the garage. Open the valve all the way. Give the tip cleaner a couple of cranks here. There we go. We'll set it off. We'll go over this way just a little bit here. But leave it in the front where you can see it in the video while we're looking at these two cans of fuel. This can still has, the old cans had a metal seal underneath there. You have to puncture with like a screwdriver and pry it out of there to open up the can. So it's still airtight sealed. So I've got a pretty good level of confidence that this fuel is going to be perfectly fine in here. I've gone back and forth about even using this fuel. I hate to even open it up and use it, but we're going to just put the can up on our shelf that we put up on the wall over there. And there's no sense in having a can full of fuel sitting up there. Have a gallon of combustible fuel just hanging around in the shop for no reason. So we got no good reason to keep it unopened, other than the fact that you don't come across very many 50-year-old cans of fuel that are unopened anymore. But we're going to break the seal on this. I got a couple of cut off water bottles so we can pour about an inch of fuel in the bottom of each one of these, look at them, see what they look like, see what they smell like. We'll take the little bit of fuel that I dump in there, and we got another can of our fuel that we bought up at the Amish store. We'll just mix all of our leftovers, and whatever we dump out of this, we'll mix it all in with that, dump it through a filter funnel, it'll be fine, and we'll still reuse all of that fuel. My lantern's making all kinds of sounds over there. I don't know why some of them do that. I assume it's something with the airflow going in through the air tube on it that makes some of them make that noise. To be honest, I've never opened a can of this that had the metal seal in it before. We've had a can that somebody just poked a hole in the seal so it would pour out slower and the seal was still there. But I've never opened one of these vintage cans with the metal seal in it, so I don't know how hard this is even going to be to open. There we go. Well, there's the seal, and that doesn't look great on the bottom. That's kind of rusty. The fuel smells a little funky too. I was not expecting that. It doesn't smell bad. It doesn't smell like rotten gas, that's for sure. But it does smell a little off compared to brand new Coleman fuel. I'm sure it's a great idea to be pouring all this fuel 18 inches away from the lantern that's burning. But anyone that watches the channel knows we got a big old fire extinguisher about 3 feet away from us. Look at that. It's got a little yellow color to it. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody say that they had a can of it that looked yellow. I've seen people on the Coleman group say that they opened up an old can of fuel and it looked kind of a blue tint to it. But that doesn't look very blue to me. Now let's see what the brand new Coleman fuel looks like. Definitely a difference. That is definitely clearer than the old fuel is. Grab the camera and spin it around here. Get down in there close. That's the vintage fuel, that's the brand new fuel. So there definitely is a yellow color to the vintage fuel. We had bought lanterns before that had fuel in them that had been in them for God only knows how many years, and just lit them right up and burned the rest of the old fuel out of them. So we've never really had issues with it, but I honestly thought that you wouldn't even be able to tell the two of them apart. Yeah, that does have a bit of a funky smell to it. now that I put them right side by side. I think that one's a little bit stronger odor on it than this one has, but they smell similar, it just smells stronger.
What do they taste like?
I don't know. Probably not good would be my guess, but I don't know. If I spilled some on the floor, Leo would lick it up. He likes carburetor cleaner every time you spray it and it drips on the floor. Okay, so the lantern's been burning, I don't know, 5 minutes or whatever. It's been burning for a few minutes, enough that it's warmed up good. You can see it's not surging. Everything seems to be working just fine on it. So we're gonna shut this lantern off, let it cool down, and I will dump as much of the fuel that's in here as I possibly can out of it. We'll fill it up with some of the vintage Coleman fuel, and then we'll light it back up and we'll see how it burns on the vintage Coleman fuel.
You want a clean can to try to dump that into before you try to get in that little funnel?
Yeah, that would be good.
I got clean cans upstairs. You go up and grab a couple.
Okay, we're going to take the fuel that we dumped out of these two cans. We're just going to add it to this can. This is some fuel that we bought at the store in Kelowna where we go and buy it in bulk. We'll dump both of these in with that fuel. We'll still use it. There's nothing wrong with the fuel. We're going to try to dump all the fuel out of this. It's getting cooled down enough to open it up and drain it out here. See how much of a mess I can make trying to dump the fuel out of this. I honestly don't know how much. Yeah, it's pretty full. I shook it around and I didn't think it was clear full, but it's got quite a bit in there, so. We'll drain out as much of it as we can. And that's going to be about it. I'm not going to try to shake it around to get more of it to come out of there because I don't want to break the mantles on it. I know I didn't put those mantles on it because I haven't had any Instaclip ones in quite a while, so those are definitely older mantles. I'll dump this in here. Oh, for the love of God.
You ought to bend the spout on the
yeah. Should have known I'd make a mess here. There we go. Hopefully my rubber mat's fuel resistant. Okay. We'll get that out of the way. We'll get the new can of fuel out of the way. Let's fill this up with some of the vintage fuel. Dad had a good point. It's got a plastic cap on it, so if any of you know when the plastic safety caps came out, maybe, I don't know, maybe this can's from the 80s. Maybe it's only 40 years old instead of 50 years old, but my guess is it's pushing 50 years old. But if you know when they came out with the plastic caps, leave it down in the comments. I'm going to go ahead and pretty much fill it up because I'll get it back out at home again tonight. Get a shot of it burning in the dark at home tonight. So I'll let it run for, I don't know, 6 hours or so tonight. Yeah, that's full enough. Plenty for what we're doing here. Poor old lantern is pretty crusty right there. I didn't even really notice it when I grabbed it off the nail hanging up in the garage, but a little rusty. I had to get a little bit of green paint and touch that up before it rusts anymore around there.
I think we have some, don't we?
Yep. It's not perfect match, but it's close enough. The first precaution on this can, do not open can, do not open can near sparks, open flame, camping appliances with any other part hot to the touch, or any other source of heat. So I'm pretty sure that 18 inches away from a burning lantern was probably not what they recommend, but
It wasn't on there, though.
yeah, it doesn't say don't 18 inches away from a burning lantern. Okay, this should light right up. It was just burning. It's hissing, but it's not gurgling yet. There we go. Open the valve up all the way. I'll go ahead and give the tip cleaner a couple turns just because I did it the last time with the other fuel. So I'll give it a fair shake. Obviously the first little bit of fuel that's in there is still going to be the old fuel in the pickup tube and everything, but let's give it a couple minutes burning and see how it does here. It sounds the same and it's nice and bright. So far, it looks just about the same to me. Well, Dad and I have been sitting here talking, the lantern's sitting there burning. It's been about 10 minutes, and it's just sitting there burning nice. No issues, not surging, no different than when it had the newer fuel in it that we dumped out. So I would say that my answer that I always give everybody, that if it's in a sealed can, it lasts indefinitely, is a pretty good answer because I don't really know how long it lasts. If I find another can that's even an older can than that one, at some point in the future that's still got fuel in it, we'll make another video, but the really old cans from the 50s and 60s and stuff are getting pretty hard to come by, especially with any fuel left in them anymore. So I will shut this off for now, shut the lantern down, let it cool down. I'll take it back home and then I'll fire it up at home this evening and get a shot of it in the dark at home tonight. Well, I'm here at home. Sorry about the wind noise. It's really windy out here today. I was gonna record this after it got dark, but I lit it up about, I don't know, maybe 2 o'clock this afternoon because I wanted to get all the rest of the fuel back out of it before I hang it back up in the rafters. I just picked it up to move it and it is running on fumes, so I figured I better get a shot of it before it runs out of fuel. So you can see it's burning good. That old Coleman fuel has worked just as well as the new stuff. So I think that 40 to 50 year old Coleman fuel definitely was not in bad shape at all. Thanks for watching, folks. If you haven't already, hit the like and the subscribe button, please do so. And then come on back next week. We'll have a video or something here for you to watch.